back to not Farming Simulator. So you will have seen today that a update to MaizePlus has been released, and I thought I'd go through some of the changes because some of them may please you, some may surprise you, some require a little bit of work. So I've not covered the full changelog, just some of the ones that stood out to me as interesting. So first off, there was a translation error or L10N error with the big bag. So when you went to pick up one of the MaizePlus big bags with the big bag lifter, it would give you an error. That's been fixed. We have added some fill types into the game. So part of the licensing agreement with Doika limits who can use the Doika branding. So within MaizePlus now, there are Doika specific fill types for their feeds and generic ones to help with that. Some of the icons have been updated. Some weights have been revised. If you watched my video on Attingham Park where I was doing the small square bales and then with the packet and the wrapper, we fixed some bits on that I picked up, particularly around capacities of bales. And if you play multiplayer and have had issues with not being able to rejoin the game with mixer wagons active, that has been fixed as well. So if you're into your multiplayer, you'll be pleased with that. Talking about the Doika fill types, and I'll jump into the game in a minute. Sorry to PowerPoint you. It was the easiest way of me presenting the stuff coming in a minute, which is to do with the changes to the animal feeding that have been made as well. If you have pallets in the game when you update MaizePlus, when you spawn them in, they will appear empty, and you need to go into the save game and make a change. So I'll quickly load the game up. I'll show you what they look like. We'll then go into the save game and I'll show you how to fix it. So just to very quickly show you, when you reload the game after you've updated, if you had pallets of stuff, they will suddenly look like this and they will be empty. It's a very easy fix. We'll just jump out into the Farming Simulator folder where your mods and your save games are, and I'll show you quickly how to fix it. So you want to go into My Games Farming Simulator 22 and find the save game for the save you're worried about. For me, that's save game 16. Yeah, I know I have too many save games. When you do as much testing as I do, that happens. And the pallets and everything else are stored in vehicles randomly. So we're going to open up the vehicles XML file. And scroll down and find your pallets. And for me, it's easy because they're at the bottom. If you can't remember what was in them, it'll tell you here they were feed pellets, and this one were mineral pallet. So we need to get the fill type names. I've still got my PowerPoint open. Yeah, I know. So we're going to go for that one, which is the mineral one, and we're going to paste it in there. And get rid of that. And then the feed pellets is, I believe, there we go, feed pellets. Awesome. I know exactly what I'm doing. Honest. Now, knowingly, it's lost the fill type level as well. For me, I know these were full pallets, which I think is 1,000 liters. You could go back into your save game backups. So if we go up here and we go into save game backup, and I find, I don't even know if I do have a save game backup for game 16. Scroll down, and there we go. It tells me I had 1,050 liters in both. It's a bit of work, I know. If you don't want to do this, just come into here, delete them, and buy them back in and cheat the money in with EasyDev. Yeah. Different ways of achieving the same thing. This is how I would probably do it. Might not be how you want to do it. So if we just load the game up now, you'll see that these have come back as they were. And we're back up the store now, and our pallets are back. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a faff. Part of the licensing agreement with Doika that they are supposed to limit who uses the Doika brand, but with only one fill type for these that instantly named them as Doika, that was a bit of a problem for us, so we've had to make this change. This should be the last update of this kind of thing with MaizePlus. It's intended that this will be the last update. who knows, there might be another one. Let's get into the more interesting stuff, which is the feeding changes, which I know you are all really keen to hear about, I'm sure. So I have no idea how well this is actually going to work. So I've never tried to present like this on just my laptop. So the feeding has been changed slightly for most of the animals. The first few are really trivial. So for the moisture food for cows, you can now add potatoes, beets and carrots without having to chop them. This is a big win for me. I've spent so much time with that Flegel beet cutter trying to feed my animals. Just being able to do this is so much better. And you know, in the UK, I watch Tom Pemberton. They feed pretty much whole potatoes to their cows. So I'm good with this. Big thumbs up from me. With sheep, rather than having to feed them cut sugar beets, you can feed whole sugar beets. Whole potatoes is not in there. Whole sugar beets is. So again, bit of a win, making your life easier. On to pigs. Couple of changes here. So in the concentrate as well as the fermented CCM, you can now feed the unfermented CCM. And down in moisture food, again, you don't have to cut your potatoes. You do have to cut your sugar beets. Horses, not really any significant changes there. And then with chickens in the base food, we've added in CCM and CCM raw. And then for the moisture food, uncut sugar beet and carrots. So again, really cool, giving you some options. You obviously have to buy your carrots at the moment. Now the cool changes. Some of you are going to really like this, I think. So we have changed the animal data override in the animal food additions. So everything before this was just MaizePlus. The changes to the feeding types do apply to the animal food additions. Actually, I need to go back. Up in the cows, in the realistic TMR, you can now use uncut potatoes and sugar beets and also carrots. So you don't have to cut your potatoes and your beets to go in the TMR either. Again, big win for me. Now, these are the cool changes that I think most people will really like. It affects the cows because cows are have been the real focus of MaizePlus. So for the brown Swiss, you will see we have two sets of lines here. Orange is before the update, blue is no. They're not consistent. Well done, me. Yes, no, they are not consistent. Well done, me. Good work on your PowerPointing. So, or your excelling. I did not excel. Pun intended. For the feeding on the left-hand side, we have reduced the consumption by about 1,000 litres a month for the brown Swiss across all ages. You get the same straw goes in, same amount of manure, slurry and milk comes out, but less food goes in. And a lot of people are unhappy about that. So this for me is a cool thing, particularly as I have a rather large dairy farm running brown Swiss. So, 160,000 less litres of food a month is a big plus from me. To counter that, and this is where the colour is slightly wrong, I might, so before they didn't use much water, now they use a lot more water. Now, again, I think it's probably more realistic that they use quite a lot of water in a month. Remember, this is a month. So yeah, I'm not going to argue with the numbers. If you think it's unrealistic, go in and change them. Have videos on that. Basically, headline news: cows eat less, drink more. So again, with the Holsteins, certainly early on in their life as well, you can see a much more significant drop in the amount of food consumed. Closes up as they get a bit older, but headline: they're eating less food as they get older. If you're wondering what happens beyond the 28-month point, it's a flat line. So they'll reach a maximum of, I believe it's 4,500 litres here. Let me just check that. Yeah, so they reach a maximum of 4,500 litres of food a month rather than 5,000. So, and you're still getting the same amount of milk, manure and slurry out. And again, much more water going in. Water's cheap, yeah, personally, I think this is a good thing. Moving on to the beef, I've just got the one slide on this. Again, the trend is similar. much more obvious early on with the beef. They're eating about 1,000 litres less of food a month until they reach peak age, and then suddenly it jumps up and then it'll plateau again. So, as your cows reach maturity, they're going to eat a bit more. You're fattening them to sell them. Yeah. And again, you can see it on the other side, the water consumption goes up. I'm really annoyed with myself that I got the lines differently. I was being a bit lazy and a bit rushed with getting this information out for you so that you knew what had changed. And I think that's it. So we're going to go back and I'll just talk about this a little bit more. So for the dairy cows, a lot of people were unhappy with how much food they ate with the animal food additions enabled. I was not so worried because the amount of milk you get out is so much compensation for it that I think it balances. Paul's had another look at it and decided to reduce the numbers a bit. So the cows eat a bit less, drink a bit more for the dairy. For the beef, they eat quite a lot less early on in their life, and then it jumps up to about where it was before later on, and again more water, same amounts of manure, slurry, no milk for the beef obviously, and that's pretty much it. So we're not expecting, I think there's maybe one more feature that we need to update, but hopefully all of this stuff is consistent now. So if you've made edits to the animal food.xml with custom feed mixes, or the animal data override with changing how much your animals have eaten, you're going to need to do it again. I do not recommend just dropping in your old files. Just spend a bit of time going through, compare what's changed, update what you need to. Hopefully you'll be good then and you won't need to do it again. Yeah, that's it. That's the update for MaizePlus. Hopefully this has been informative. If it has, click the like button. Comments, questions, or suggestions, easy comments and suggestions, stick them in the YouTube comments. If you want to have a long chat about this, use the MaizePlus Discord. The link is below. When you join the MaizePlus Discord, you need to go into the rules and select your language. Otherwise, you won't see any of the groups to have a conversation in. The number of people that do that and say, MaizePlus for Discord's not very good, you can't see anything, you haven't selected your language. You probably don't want to see all of the groups for both languages. Cool. And lastly, if you're not subscribed, and at least half of you aren't, please click the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.